Uh, what up, y'all? We back again. 12:12 in the morning, but we're gonna chop up this fable. Man. Day one of the trial, we got introduced to, let me make sure I say her name correctly. Jerhonda Pace. Jerhonda Johnson Pace, I believe. Yes. So I'm gonna do a little background check on her before we even go into what she stated today in the courtroom. So it goes back to the BuzzFeed article she did back August 21st, 2017. And I'm assuming this is Jim DeRogatis who did it. But a woman, the article is a woman who says she had underage sex with R. Kelly is finally telling her story. Jerhonda Pace was just 15 years old when she met her musical idol, R. Kelly, outside his child pornography trial. What an oxymoron, right? What an oxymoron. The alleged underage sexual relationship with him that followed in subsequent payouts mirrored decades of allegations against the star. And you have to understand there's a pattern with him. What these girls do is they go, yo, I know he's attracted to me. I'm going to have sex with him. And then we're going to get him in a civil trial. You have to, again, understand nobody's taking him to criminal court for statutory rape. They're just looking for a payday. In 2008, Jerhonda Johnson was a 15-year-old sophomore from Chicago's south suburbs who cut high school every day to attend R. Kelly's trial on 14 counts of making child pornography. The R&B superstar had no bigger fan, and Johnson was quoted in national media stories defending her musical idol. Let me see real quick. 2008 trial. What was it located? I just want to know. Not able to. I'm trying to see if I can get. Because I'm not seeing whether this is downtown Chicago or not. That's what I'm actually trying to see. If it was downtown Chicago, then that makes what was going on even more interesting because now you have to ask, that's a hell of a journey a young lady is taking from that court, from the south suburbs to downtown Chicago on a daily basis to see R. Kelly. And again, we have to ask the question, how could she have been cut in school every day? Every day. She cut high school every day to attend R. Kelly's trial. So no parents were alerted. Nobody had a conversation with her. Which means what? Already loose out here in the streets. But like I said, she cut high school every day to attend R. Kelly's trial on 14 counts of making child pornography. The R&B superstar had no bigger fan, and Johnson was quoted in national media stories defending her musical idol. Now a 24-year-old mother of three, right there. with the married name Pace. Now, I want to tell you now what probably happened to dress all of this up in the correct way so she doesn't look like she's loose out here in the streets. What they had her do was marry one of these guys. It wouldn't shock me at all if the Me Too movement gave her some money, gave the baby father some money. Look, you guys need to be married and present a formidable front for when this guy goes on trial and we put you on the stand. Because at this point, 24 years old, mother of three, that don't really look too good. You put her on the stand. So now, 24-year-old mother of three who's married, now it looks like, she's a well-mannered young lady, I should say. I say it that way. A woman of traditional values. She tells BuzzFeed News that after the trial, when she was 16, she became one of many women traumatized by a sexual relationship with Kelly. Her detailed and well-documented story of accepting cash settlements from the star in return for signing non-disclosure agreements, which has not been previously reported, illustrates how Kelly has been able to silence young women he has allegedly wronged. So now you have to ask yourself, if she signed an NDA, why is she talking now? But we're not even going to worry about that. Several individuals with first-hand knowledge of the situation have supported Pace's claims. Additionally, BuzzFeed News reviewed signed legal documents, drafts of settlements between Kelly and Pace. Correspondence between Pace and the attorneys involved a polygraph test performed at the request of her attorney regarding her relationship with Kelly, a probate court document opening an estate for Pace as the result of a civil settlement, and a subsequent payment made by Kelly's management company to Pace. Representatives for Kelly issued a statement early Tuesday morning denying Pace's allegations. The allegations against Mr. Kelly are false and are being made by individuals known to be dishonest. It is clear these continuing stories are the result of the effort of those with personal agendas who are working in concert to interfere with and damage his career. His career dead, but I get it. I don't think back then in 2017 when this article was did, I don't even think R. Kelly even knew what was headed this way. But keep telling you guys, men will be in the silent generation, and this is the reason why. Men are terrified to speak out now. And it's why I have to do stuff like this at this point. Mr. Kelly again denies any and all wrongdoing and is taking appropriate legal action to protect himself from ongoing defamation. Pace is the fourth member of Kelly's circle to tell BuzzFeed News that the star mentally and physically abuses the women closest to him. Kelly has faced similar allegations for years. In 2005, for example, his then wife, Andrea Lee filed for an order of protection in Cook County Circuit Court, alleging that her husband had slapped and hit her and demanding no contact at all by any means. She later dropped that order. And again, this is also a woman who still won't give up that last name, who's still on Instagram to this day dancing to Step in the Name of Love. That's sick behavior for you to say somebody was beating your head in, treating you like a caged animal, and you still dancing to his music. But of course, you'll get those who want to cape for in this behavior. They're going to say it's because she was abused. It's battered woman syndrome. And that's just the damage he's done, if that's how much in love she is with her attacker. Well, for me, you just need to be accountable for your actions. That's it. He needs to be held accountable for his actions. She needs to be held accountable for her actions. That's all I want. We don't need to get into the whole this needs to be over here, this needs to be over there. What about this agenda, that agenda? No, everybody needs to jacket what they contributed to the situation. Pace's story is different than previously reported accounts because she was underage when she and Kelly began a sexual relationship. Pace says she is talking now and breaking a signed non-disclosure agreement because she is concerned about women still living with Kelly and what police have been told is an abusive cult, as BuzzFeed News first reported last month. Now, this is 2017. At this point, surviving R. Kelly either has been released or is on its way. You got to understand the ball that was already in motion at this point. You have to understand she was probably paid to break that non-disclosure agreement. That's why I said that's probably why they end up making sure she was married before they presented this girl to the people. Pace says she's particularly concerned about a friend she brought into Kelly's circle when they were both teenagers and who multiple sources say still lives with Kelly. Kelly has adamantly denied allegations of wrongdoing, and one alleged victim, a 21-year-old Jocelyn Savage, has said she is doing fine. Her parents and the parents of an 18-year-old aspiring single from Florida have all said they have been told there is an ongoing federal investigation into Kelly, but an FBI spokesman declined requests for comment. If I can speak out and I can help them get out of that situation, that's what I will do. Pace says, I didn't have anybody to speak up on my behalf when I was going through what I was going through with him. He brainwashed them really bad, and it kind of reminds me of Charles Manson. Now, I'm telling you now, at the age of 24, this girl, the odds of her knowing exactly who Charles Manson is and what Charles Manson was, probably slim and none. But at this point, that's what I'm saying. You got to understand when you read this and hearing this, who's saying it? What's the agenda at this point? You have to understand the Me Too movement is running wild at this point. What do they want? They want men's heads on the stake. Somebody got to pay. Now, again, I keep saying, was that R. Kelly on that tape with that 14, 15-year-old girl? Sure was. Should he have been stopped then? Sure should have. Am I going to punish him now, though, for things that's going on where he may have been, somebody has misrepresented themselves, or consenting adults are in a situation that they was enjoying and now they no longer enjoy? So now it's, hey, I'm going to just scream, he abused me. Who knows? Like I said, we'll see as the case develops and unfolds, and we're going to do it right here, day by day. Pace says she first became a self-described R. Kelly superfan when she heard his album Chocolate Factory at age 11. My family listened to his music. My friends listened to his music. Everybody was just in love with the music. WGCI was the biggest supporter. They played him all the time, and it was my favorite radio station. Which it is. Her fandom didn't fade when Kelly was indicted for making child pornography. Pace says, once the trial began in May 2008, she attended the proceedings every day until Kelly's acquittal on June 13th of that year. Now, you have to understand, May of 2008, every day, if we just say the end of May when the trial started, but I think the trial lasted like 3 weeks to a month. That's 30 straight days. This young lady wasn't in school. So you have to start understanding who you're dealing with, what you're dealing with. Now you'll have those say, yeah, she's just 16. Oh, yeah, that's fine. But that's a delinquent. And again, where were parents at? How are you even out in the streets at this point scheming? Because all of this was being done to lead up to this moment. If convicted, Kelly could have been sentenced to 15 years in prison. Looking back, Pace said she attended the trial because she was a fan and wanted to know what happened. Did he really do it? She recalls wondering. I wanted to see everything for myself. That included watching the notorious video when it was shown several times in court. Now you have to ask yourself, how is a delinquent, how is a minor sitting in court on a day-to-day basis when she should have been in school? But, forget it. And, I mean, she is in the south suburbs, so by June 13th, she could have been out of school. So I'm gonna chill on that. But she did say she was cutting school every day. But to my knowledge, in the south suburbs, school does let out, I think, last week in May, first week of June. So something like that. But if she saw the tape, she knew he did it already. So we already know she full of shit when she says she just wanted to know, did he really do it? Those who saw the tape, you already know he did. No doubt about it. Prosecutors allege that the 26-minute, 39-second video depicted Kelly having sex with a 14-year-old girl, urinating in her mouth and ordering her to call him daddy. Pace says watching the video was disturbing, but because the girl and her parents never testified, though 14 other witnesses, including her aunt, did identify the girl, Pace said she thought, well, maybe that's not the girl. She would have come forward. I think it would have made a huge difference. Outside of court at the time, she defended Kelly to multiple news outlets. They can't call him a pedophile anymore, Pace, then 15, told MTV. They can't say he likes little girls. They don't have proof of that because he's innocent now. He's free. The MTV article reported that Pace was how old? 18. So she's a girl cutting school, and she's a liar already. Public records as well as Pace's birth certificate and driver's license shows she was actually 15 at the time. She admits she lied to the reporter because Cook County sheriff's officers were not admitting anyone under 18 into the trial. Again, why didn't she have to give ID to get in? Who knows? But, the way my brain worked, the fix was probably in already with this girl. Pace says she met Kelly when he was walking into the court building. The star seemed like a cool guy, and he would always speak to me when he saw me, she recalls. That meeting with Kelly would not be her last. In May 2009, a friend and employee of Kelly's friended Pace on MySpace. Pace tells BuzzFeed News and invited her to a party Kelly was throwing at his mansion in suburban Olympia Fields. Pace, who had just turned 16, said she lied to her parents, telling them she was going to a friend's house. So again, she lying again. But of course, you know how this is getting ready to play out. She was 16, though. Media thought she was an adult already. Everybody around is thinking she's an adult. The only person who knows she's not an adult is the lying-ass young lady right here, who's getting ready to now tell you to believe everything else I'm telling you, even though I've lied to numerous people. I was a bit nervous, she says. Even though I had already met him at his trial, I was like literally at his house, so it did not feel real. She remembers Kelly calling her over to the bar and telling her he had noticed her at the trial. He then asked for her cell phone and entered his number in it. At the time, I was still, pretty starstruck. So again, she giving herself an out. So I was in disbelief, she says. Pace says she did not tell Kelly she was underage and would later tell private investigators she claimed to be 19 years old at the time. The age of consent in Illinois is 17. So again, she's continuing to lie. And now she done up the age one more year because she already knows, he knows, the heat is on him. I'm not getting ready to get involved in this. So what did she do? I won't tell him my real age. I'll tell him 19. So why would you tell him you was 19 if you was 16? We'll read further and see why. Not long after, on June 5th, 2009, Pace said Kelly invited her to come back to his mansion and sent an employee to pick her up in a black SUV. He told me that he wanted me to undress for him and walk back and forth like I was modeling, she says. The two then had oral sex, and Pace said in interviews with BuzzFeed and her 2010 polygraph interview, Kelly made his first attempt to ensure she did not talk about their sexual relationship by having her write out and sign letters stating that she had stolen jewelry and cash from him and that her parents had set her up to blackmail him. Pace says she did as instructed, but none of the charges were true. Now, again, could her parents have blackmailed her? Who knows? Who knows? The way she was moving, though, you can tell she doesn't have concerned parents. They're not strict in her house, that she's allowed to kind of just maneuver around as she pleases. On the next visit on June 9th, Pace says Kelly gave her an alcoholic drink he called Sex in the Kitchen, which is also the name of a song he released in '05. I was drunk because I wasn't used to alcohol, Pace said. The two had intercourse. Pace says she was a virgin and Kelly thought that was exciting. That girl wasn't no virgin. That much I'm going to tell you right now. Her actions, lying to her parents, I'm going to a friend's house, going to sneak and see him. Now, what she's trying to do is tell you I was doing all of this because I was starstruck. To try and make it seem like now, yo, I was an innocent, sweet young lady. This is how I operated. When we've all known young ladies who do what? They get around when they're in high school. Then when they go to college, what do? They switch up and say, I'm not that type of girl. And you don't realize that till somebody from her neighborhood comes up to the school and they see, and then they come and tell you, oh no, she got around in high school. And then you understand, okay, so she done switched up then. And there's nothing wrong with that. But people will create whole new personas when they go other places. Over the next 7 months, Pace says she had sex with Kelly repeatedly, a claim she would later repeat during her settlement process. Without asking her permission, Kelly filmed most of the encounters on his iPhone or a video camera on a tripod. Pace says a settlement draft reiterates, I had to call him daddy and he would call me baby. He wanted me to have 2 pigtails and I had to go out and find little schoolgirl outfits. If Kelly was previously unaware of Pace's age, she says she told him for certain that she was 16 on July 17, 2009. A claim she also made in the aforementioned documents. I gave her my state ID, she says. She recalls that Kelly told her things were fine, but that she should tell anyone who asked that she was 19 and act like she was 25. So you got to understand the trick bag he in now. The damage is done. And he done slept with her already. Now, be it good or bad at this point, slept with her. Which again is why didn't they go get him for statutory rape? And you know why they didn't go get him for statutory rape? Because they couldn't prove this case. They just couldn't. You better believe they wanted to put him in jail for statutory rape. But since they couldn't prove anything that she's saying, what do? Civil suit. Because in civil suit, you don't need the burden of proof that you need in criminal court. Pace says she started spending weekends with Kelly at his Olympia Fields home while she was in the mansion. She said she had to follow Kelly's rules, which included dressing in baggy clothes, turning over her phone, and asking permission to shower, eat, go to the bathroom, and leave the property. If she broke the rules, she says she was mentally and physically abused. Now she's spending the weekend, so now she just gone. Parents don't even care no more. See how the story just started and just flip all of a sudden. And I also want to go back to this. What did she say it was that? He wanted me to have two pigtails and I had to go out and find little schoolgirl outfits, tight clothing. Now we get down here and she's talking about dressing in baggy clothes. But, we're going to keep moving. At the time, I didn't know what I liked. Honestly, Pace says, explaining why she complied. I just knew that I liked his music, so I was pretty much accepting anything that came with him at the time. So she still ain't tell her parents what was going on. And at 16 years old, like I said, I'm not buying she was a virgin, already sexually active. She was having sex with R. Kelly. Now, at the time, I didn't know what I liked, honestly. And she says, I just knew that I liked his music, which is again an out. Don't blame me. I was starstruck. I was googly eyed like any other woman would be. According to Pace, she and her 17-year-old friend, a fellow superfan she met on MySpace, who sources say still lives with Kelly today, were hanging out at Kelly's Olympia Fields mansion in July '09 when police and two squad cars arrived in search of the friend whose mother had called to complain that their young daughter was with Kelly. Pace, both when speaking to BuzzFeed and during her 2010 polygraph test, says that Kelly called one of his attorneys who advised his star client that he did not have to let the police into the house if they did not have a warrant. Pace says Kelly asked her to engage in threesomes, including with the woman who was best friends since high school with the girl in the videotape, for which Kelly was tried. Asked though, not forced. And again, at some point, people got to be held accountable for their actions. This was a 16-year-old boy who shot somebody who would be tried as an adult. We can't keep allowing people to keep using I was young. Because at some point then we need to just set a baseline for what age is just, that's a kid. Because if you can be tried as an adult, at 16 years old, she can be a parent. So she could be somebody's mother at this point, which I don't know when she got pregnant, but she is three people's mother at this point, at the point of this interview. We need to start being clear with what's going on out here in society. Because again, we have to ask the question, are we upset with the age gap or are we upset with sex? Because again, I don't have any problem saying sex should be outlawed until men and women are 21 years old. Just make it illegal. Then we don't really have to have these problems or conversations. We could eliminate teenage pregnancy. We could eliminate a lot of these abortions that's happening. And we could eliminate a lot of these high school dropouts. But that's too much like right. Because to eliminate sex and to eliminate teenage pregnancy, you would start to have to answer questions about why people with degrees and licenses aren't getting paid well. So as long as you have people in poverty, the capitalism system, the system works. The second you could have 80 to 90% of people with degrees and licenses and things like that, and that wasn't work, then you would understand the American dream is nothing but a lie at that point. So you need a lot of these things for the American dream to work because you need job openings. And as long as these people are living off the government, there'll always be job openings. But there'll be discrepancies in the job openings because these will be people who haven't gone to school. So all they can do is fester down at the lower level jobs and work their way up. If a lot of these people had degrees, then guess what? You couldn't sell them. You couldn't sell them the importance of school anymore, which you can't really sell the importance of school to people who graduated now because they understand, y'all going to school all this time and ain't no jobs out here for me. And I'm coming out making the same amount of money that somebody who didn't go to school makes, and I got $200,000 in student loans. But let's get back. Pace says she ended her relationship with Kelly in January 2010 after the two had an argument when Kelly caught her texting a friend. I was slapped and I was choked and I was spit on. She says a claim repeated in the settlement draft and corresponding polygraph. Pace says she left Kelly's house, but her deal was far from over. So she had the strength at that point to leave, even after being abused, because at that point you would probably stay if you were suffering from battered woman syndrome. So now you have to ask, why did she get the power to leave then and not all of these times before? Because she was enjoying herself. But see, what happens with a lot of these cases is once these men get bored of these young ladies and throw them away, then these young girls come back and they blow the whole spot up. And it's a pattern that continues over and over and over and over and over again. Of, yo, he's having sex with me now, and now I believe I'm his number one girl. I'm in control. I'm getting all the money. I'm the one he want to have sex with all the time. And then the second he picks the next girl, now that girl's jealous and feeling wounded. So she does what? I'm getting them put in jail. She didn't have a problem with any of this up until all of these different other women, these new women came about. New girls come in, she's losing her place now. So now what does she do? I'm blowing the spot up. The next day, Pace recalls she contacted the offices of Chicago attorney Susan Loggins. It was on their website that they had worked with a lot of women who went against Kelly, and I thought, oh, that's a good thing, Pace says. Logan's declined to comment, but her firm has made extracting cash settlements from Kelly a specialized part of his practice. A 2011 ad for the firm boasts that high-profile clients have included two underage girls who claimed the R&B superstar Kelly had sex with them. So, again, this is common knowledge still then. Everybody knows what's going on. Nobody's trying the man in criminal court. Everybody's taking him in civil court, but nobody's trying him in criminal court to get him off the streets. And I just want to know why. Loggins first represented three women in the late 90s and early 2000s in cases brought against Kelly filed in Cook County. After these three publicly filed lawsuits, Loggins began negotiating other settlements between Kelly and young women she represented before lawsuits were ever filed. Man, Pace says that when she went to Loggins for assistance, she was told that the attorneys would make her a millionaire. That's when she decided to pursue a settlement instead of criminal charges. If I was to get criminal charges, it would probably be like it was last time, where he wouldn't get convicted, Pace considered at the time. No, I already told y'all why. Civil court, you don't really have to prove too much of anything. In criminal court, you would have had to prove these things. She would have had to come with evidence of everything she's alleging that happened. She would have needed to prove that. You don't really need to prove that in civil court. To verify Pace's story, Loggins asked Pace to take the aforementioned lie detector test. BuzzFeed obtained a 7-page document about the test conducted by F.L. Hunter and Associates in suburban Hinsdale on January 9, 2010. The results were sent to Loggins in a letter dated February 1st, 2010. The document details 4 questions that Pace was asked, including whether she had intercourse with Kelly, okay, if she had told him she was 16, and whether he slapped, choked, and spit on her during an argument. She answered yes to all questions. It is the opinion of the examiner, based upon the analysis of her polygraph records, that she is truthful in her answers, Hunter concluded. Hunter has since retired from the firm that still bears his name. According to Pace, within weeks of the meeting in Loggins' office, the attorney had negotiated a large settlement with Kelly in return for Pace signing an NDA and declining to pursue any charges or other claims against Kelly. Since Pace was still a minor, Loggins and her mother opened an estate on her behalf. According to Pace and court records obtained by BuzzFeed, but Pace says she only received a fraction of what was owed to her. In 2012, she complained to Loggins' assistant about late or missing payments from Kelly. According to emails reviewed by BuzzFeed in that period, Pace's settlement was far from Kelly's only expense. In 2009, Kelly divorced his second wife, with whom he had children, and he was paying spousal support and child support. In 2012, he owed the IRS nearly $5 million in unpaid taxes dating back to 2005. In 2013, the star sold the Olympia Fields mansion, once valued at more than $5 million, for $100,000, years after it went into foreclosure. Down the line, Pace and other sources confirmed she went on to sign a new settlement agreement with Kelly. BuzzFeed reviewed a subsequent payment made by Kelly's management company, RSK Enterprises, to Pace as recently as July 15, 2015. Pace's current attorney refused to comment. Pace says that she could face legal action for violating the terms of her agreement by talking publicly about her experience with Kelly, but given Kelly's continued personal and professional success in a crime she says he committed, she says speaking out is worth the risk. At this point, though, like I said, she's been paid off by the Me Too movement. Despite signing the NDA, which may not necessarily preclude reporting a crime and threats of legal action, Pace is considering pursuing criminal charges against Kelly. And see, the setup was already here. But you have to ask yourself, why didn't you pursue criminal charges at first? So now what you'll do is you'll throw her into some big, large scheme where you'll bring a bunch of women up. And like I said, if he abused and choked these women, throw them under the jail. But if you're bringing out 16-year-old girls and 15-year-old girls who told them they was 18 and 19, and that's what they're admitting, and you play with fire, you're going to get burned. I know speaking out against Kelly could sue me, but I'm really not worried about it anymore, Pace says. I feel like this is a healing process for me because I've been holding this in for so many years. Now, this whole big story she gave you back in 2017 leads up to her testimony now. But before I get into her testimony, We had a good time too, 40 minutes. Before I get into her testimony, that's a story now with a young lady who told you she did what? At 15 years old, I was cutting school to go watch him try and beat a child pornography case. Then after he beat the case, I wanted to be the one to sleep with him after that. On top of me knowing that he already likes little girls because he's on trial for it at the current moment that I'm cutting school to go see him in this trial every day, I'm not going to even tell him my real age. I'm going to tell him I'm 4 years older and tell him I'm 19 years old. Then after I tell him I'm 19, we're going to have sex. And then after we have sex, then I'm going to come back to him and tell him, hey, I'm a minor. Cool. Makes sense to me, man. Like I say, man, at some point y'all going to have to start holding a lot of these girls accountable for some of the stuff they out here doing. That's a lot of manipulation. That's a lot of lying going on. Now, again, is the man a sick bastard? Sure is. He sure is. But am I going to be upset with him over this young lady? No. Like I said, you want to talk about the girl who was in that tape? Fine. That's statutory rape. Put him under the jail. But when somebody says they are now 15, then she turns 16, then she says, yeah, but I told him I was 19. Then no, I'm not going to punish him for that. You misled him. So let's go to her testifying. He asked me, what is that supposed? She told him she was 19, but after the first sexual contact, let's start right here. Kelly and Pace had sexual contact beginning in 2009 when Pace was just 16 years old. She said under oath from the Brooklyn Federal Courthouse, she had told him she was 19, but after their first sexual contact, she felt uncomfortable and showed him her state ID card proving her true age. And it's the BS I'm talking about. So now you feel uncomfortable after the fact. You ain't feel uncomfortable cutting school. You ain't feel uncomfortable cutting school for 30 days. You ain't feel uncomfortable rooting for a man who was alleged to, wasn't even alleged, who was having sex with an underage girl at 15. You didn't feel uncomfortable being an underage girl trying to sleep with him. You didn't feel uncomfortable telling him you was 19 when you was actually 16. You didn't feel uncomfortable misleading him to sleeping with you while you were a minor, knowing then that could put him in jail again. You didn't feel uncomfortable about any of that. But you felt uncomfortable after first sexual contact. Cool. Now, again, I told you, I don't believe that girl was a virgin. He asked me, what is that supposed to mean? Pace, now 28, recall from the stand. He told me to continue telling people I was 19 and act like I was 21. Now, remember, in the other article, when she was talking to BuzzFeed, she said act like I was 25. And it's all I'm telling y'all. All you got to do is just listen to what people tell you. They'll tell you whether they lying or not. It's just like in Menace to Society, when they lied in the holding room. And what did he tell them? Was it Menace to Society or was it Juice when he was like, no, you done fucked up, right? No, but it really was 9. No, I thought you had to be there at 11. I mean, I don't know what's going on. If you're telling the truth, the story don't change. If you're not telling the truth, things will start to change. So let's see any more inconsistencies. So began, and Pace is telling 6 months of repeated sexual contact with the much older R&B star and escalating instances of physical abuse and control. Prosecutors allege It was part of a decades-long operation that leveraged Kelly's outside fame to target young victims, groom them, abuse them, and manipulate or blackmail them to keep them under his control. He faces a racketeering charge more commonly used against mob bosses, drug cartels, and the like. And again, this is because they don't think they can get him on this other stuff. These cases aren't strong criminally. It's kind of like when they got Al Capone for tax evasion. We couldn't get him for nothing else. So they may be able to get him for racketeering. I don't know yet. We'll find out. He began collecting girls and women like they were things, hoarding them like objects. And see, again, that's when you have to understand. That's when you know you're not a pedophile. That statement right there. He began collecting girls and women. See, pedophiles aren't attracted to adults. They want a young girl to kind of have that mannish body, flat chest, skinny torso, all of that. Small torso, skinny arms, all of that. They kind of want that boyish, little girlish look, where they have the same body parts. That's when you're dealing with a pedophile. Now, a man who's sleeping with underage girls, that's a different conversation. Because at that point, like we discussed yesterday, at 11:59 p.m., I'm 16 years old, and my brain is not capable of giving consent. In 1 minute, I'll be able to give consent. You got to make that make sense. At 16, I can't give consent to have sex with a 21-year-old man, but I can give consent to have sex with a 16 or 15-year-old boy or a young man. And that's why I keep asking you. You either going to have to say, hey, yo, the act is what bothers me or the age bothers me. Because if it's not that, if it's the act that bothers you, then I'm with you. If it's the age that bothers you, you have to understand if she's doing it, she's doing it. Now, if he marrying a girl, that's another conversation in itself. And like I said, should a 21, 22-year-old man be talking to a 15, 16-year-old girl? Hell no. But again, I grew up in this culture. So I know what it was like to be in high school with these young ladies who did what? They dated adult men. Like they had the dope boys was coming to pick them up from school. That's what they were sleeping with. And they had no problems with it. They was bragging about it. Yo, he bought me a leather coat. He bought me the new Jordans. What you have to do? Just sleep with him. So it was cool. It's only not cool now as adults because now you want to retroactively look back and say, you know what? Yeah, I had control over who I'll spread my legs for, but he was older than me. So I'm going to just say he preyed on me. No, you got to be responsible for your actions. The second you can give consent to have sex, the act, then it's just the act at that point. And it just got to stay as simple as that. Now, again, you saying somebody 16 years old, they was a virgin. Cool, I could look at it differently. I could. But if you're telling me a 16-year-old girl who's sleeping around, and then you just want to get the 20-year-old, 21-year-old because you can't punish the guys her age, yeah, I'm not punishing him for my daughter being promiscuous. Pace's testimony, as well as opening statements by both sides early in the day, placed many of the events alleged in the indictment squarely in Chicago, where Kelly got his start busking at L stations 3 decades ago. In outlining the evidence for the jury Wednesday morning, prosecutors described the hotel in suburban Rosemont where Kelly married underage Aaliyah in the 90s, the Rock and Roll McDonald's in River North, where he allegedly tried to pick up a teenager, in the studio on the west side that was the site of many of his alleged abuses. Pace's story is by now familiar, having been recounted in myriad media outlets since she went public with her allegations in 2017. And it combines many of the hallmarks of Kelly's alleged criminal enterprise: sex with a minor, some of it videotape, The strict rules he made his partners follow, isolation from friends and family, physical abuse, and finally a hefty settlement payout in exchange for the accused's silence. And see, again, for me, when were these lawyers gonna just say, you know what? The next young lady come to us with this, we going to get him criminally. We're not gonna keep letting him off the hook. But no, they just want the civil suit because they know what? A lot of these girls don't really have cases in criminal court. Which means these stories are what? They could possibly be fabricated. It's just easier to prove in civil court. And to be honest, like I told you, I don't believe Michael Jackson molested those boys, but you settle to keep your name out of the news. But at a certain point, once you start settling, anytime you get caught in these positions, you have to keep settling because you've set the precedent already. That makes Pace a compelling choice for prosecutors' first witness, but in opening statements, the defense told jurors that such consistent patterns are in fact signs that the witnesses are unreliable, making it up because they know the accusations get good play in the media, which is true. We live in a Me Too world at this point. You see what just happened. I forgot the new host from Jeopardy made some comments about women some years ago, just had to resign. They look up your background and see you said anything against women, you out. And that's why I ain't selling my soul to anybody. I'm going to keep banging on y'all head until I'm tired of banging on it. And it's not anything personal. But just like you didn't like men manipulating you guys back in the 50s and 60s, I don't like the manipulation going on by the feminist movement at this point in time. Now, if we want to just have it on an even playing field, I'm fine with that. And that's all I keep stating. I just want each party to be accountable for their actions. That's it. I ain't asking for much. All of their stories, all of their explanations, they're all going to sound kind of similar. Kelly attorney Nicole Becker said during her opening, which stretched on for more than 2 hours, using those buzzwords like I couldn't eat. It was a cult. They're amazing in the media. That is audience grabbing. And it is, because it has become I couldn't eat. It was a cult. I was in this room tied up. Everybody's kind of saying the same thing at this point. So now it's either going to be they all telling the truth, or maybe one is telling the truth and the rest have been coached. You had women in the Bill Cosby case come out and say, okay, yeah, I was lying, but I wanted the attention. But at that point, I keep telling you, once you put that charge on a man's jacket, he got to wear that for life. Prosecutors on Wednesday previewed evidence about 6 alleged victims, referred to mostly by their first names and nicknames. Aaliyah, who Kelly allegedly married because she thought she was pregnant at age 15, is at the center of an accusation that an associate of Kelly bribed an official to get a phony ID showing she was 18. Stephanie met Kelly at the Rock and Roll McDonald's when she was a teenager. A year later, when she was 17, he had sex with her over the course of 6 to 8 months, and Kelly filmed the encounters, making child pornography. Melendez says, well, if she was of age for consent, well, I guess, I don't know. I would have to look into that. But if, at 17, if it's legal for her to have it, then I don't know how you really can call it child porn at that point either. But I guess you got to be 18 to do it. But you can't get them for statutory rape because at 17 she's of age. And that's why I told you all these laws are weird, and they just get to places where you end up having people in jail for stuff that just shouldn't be in the rule book anymore. Sonja was a 22-year-old radio intern near Salt Lake City who flew to Chicago in hopes of an interview. Instead, she was confined to a room in Kelly's studio for 3 days straight, then fell immediately asleep after drinking a warm Coke his associate handed her. Melendez said she woke up with her underwear off and saw Kelly in the corner doing up his pants, Melendez said. So, again, he's 22 years old, then that means, again, not a pedophile. You're a pedophile. You don't have any interest in somebody 22 years old. You don't have any interest in somebody 17, 18. You looking at that 9, 10, 11-year-old range. Zell, known to be Azriel Clary, traveled with Kelly for 5 years, during which he physically, sexually, and psychologically abused her, saying Kelly would sometimes violently beat her on a daily basis and make her have sex with strangers as punishment. And Faith contracted herpes after having sex with Kelly, Melendez says. And when she sued him, he threatened to release compromising photos and videos of her if she didn't drop the lawsuit. Jocelyn Savage, Jocelyn's mother, told the Tribune after the proceedings she thought Pace made a good witness. The testimony Wednesday was not difficult for her to watch. She has been researching the allegations against Kelly for 5 years, Savage said, and so she was quite familiar with Pace's story. Pace, now 28, married and expecting her 5th child, recounted on Wednesday the first time she and Kelly had sex in the game room at his mansion in Olympia Fields. After he found out she was only 16, he told her he would train her on how to please him, Pace said. He took my virginity, she said in matter-of-fact terms. No, he didn't. I ain't buying that. After that first encounter, she said Kelly made her a blue drink he called Sex in the Kitchen, a reference to one of his songs. It was delicious, and then I started to feel a bit ill. She recuperated in a bedroom for a while, and then someone in Kelly's entourage gave her $50 and told her someone would take her to the train. Pace said she did not recall how many times they were together in Olympia Fields, but it was always at his bidding. And when she was there, she had to follow his rules. But again, she told you in 2017 when she had enough, she just got up and left. So see, that's not somebody who has that type of control over you. That you're just not getting up and leaving to Charles Manson. At a certain point, he took her phone away, letting her retrieve the memory card only after she said it had pictures of her dead niece on it. He gave her money for a new phone and instituted a rule that she could not see a friend of hers who was also in his mansion in Chicago's south suburbs. We were not able to leave out the rooms. Whatever area we were in, we could not leave out to meet up. It was part of the rules, Rob's rules. She had to wear baggy clothes around him, had to call him daddy, stand up and kiss him or look at him whenever he entered a room. And when she disagreed with him, she got a slap in the face or worse, she said. He would record them having sex and watch the tape with her afterwards to critique her performance. She said ultimately she contracted herpes, she said. When prosecutors asked her if she remembered her last day in the Olympia Fields home, her voice grew quiet. Yes, I do. It was January 2010, and she was preoccupied with texting her friends, so she did not notice Kelly entering the room. When she did not acknowledge him, he grew angry, and he didn't believe her when she said she was texting a friend, she said. That's when he slapped me and choked me until I passed out, she testified. When she came to, he spit on her face and directed her to give him oral sex, she testified. Pace is expected to take the stand again for much of Thursday for more questioning from prosecutors. The defense has not yet had a chance to cross-examine her, but in opening statements, Becker reserved some of her harshest criticism for Pace, saying her story is a snowball of lies that keeps getting bigger. I can't even count as high as the number of untrue stories you're going to hear from Pace on that stand, she said. The proverbial word groupie is an understatement. You'll see when it comes to her. She's going to claim she had this magnificent relationship with Mr. Kelly, until it was time to write a book. Becker's opening statement, which ran for more than 2 hours, was so long that Judge Ann Donnelly recessed for lunch in the middle of it. Overall, it pointed to an argument that prosecutors overreached in charging him with racketeering, and Kelly is the victim of scorned women who want to make a name for themselves by accusing him. There will be so many untruths told to you that even the government will not be able to untangle the web of lies, she said. Witnesses will tell you all these negative things. They're going to form a picture that basically Mr. Kelly is this monster. Some of these relationships that Mr. Kelly had were beautiful, she said, and many of the rules that prosecutors allege Kelly forces accusers to follow have benign explanations, she said. The women wore baggy clothes because they didn't want to attract harassment at Kelly's concerts, and they urinated in cups not because they were denied permission to use the bathroom, but because they were often on long tour trips in a van without a restroom, Becker said. Pee in a cup? Yeah, you might hear that, she said. It's not illegal, ladies and gentlemen. Um, yeah, I don't know if Kels was traveling in something where they needed to be peeing in a cup. I don't know if Kels was traveling in vans, long tour trips in a van either, but all right. And I doubt if they was wearing baggy clothes to his concerts either, but if y'all can prove it, you can prove it. I'm here just for the evidence, all the facts. That's it. The consistencies and the inconsistencies. That's all I'm worried about. At great length, she defended the use of the word daddy. Daddy has now become equivalent to the worst word you could ever think of, daddy. Nobody was complaining about having sexual relationships with Mr. Kelly, but now you'll hear a word from that stand that is a common word in sexual relationships, and even not sexual relationships, she said. It's a common, nice way of referring to someone, and that word is going to get slung in the mud. A few times Becker praised Kelly's mental acuity, his work ethic, his adoring fans, and his beautiful music, until she had to stop when prosecutors objected or Donnelly called for a sidebar. And repeatedly, she referred to the witnesses as girls before correcting herself to women, a fraught mistake in a trial that involves repeated allegations against sex with minors. Now, this was the opening day of Jerhonda Johnson Pace opening statements. Jerhonda Johnson Pace getting on the stand, telling her story. And like I said already, I don't buy her story not one bit. It's too many inconsistencies for me. But there are more witnesses to come. So I'll be back to you guys probably when? Tomorrow to go over what she said actually yesterday, which is Thursday, and today, which is Friday. Well, man, it's my time all off. It's Saturday now, but I'll be back tomorrow to discuss Thursday and Friday with you, and then I'll be all caught up, and we can just kind of go on a day-to-day basis at that point. So hopefully those episodes will just be 30, 40 minutes of breaking those down. But this is your boy, the Hood Nerd, deep diving into the R. Kelly trial. I'll see y'all tomorrow. I'm out.